All right, we've pretty much done everything that you can do with standard, slope-intercept form before we move on to a more complicated version, right? But we know how to graph, we know how to find a y-intercept, we know how to find a slope, we know the difference between positive and negative slope. We know all of these things, right? So what we want to do to today's lesson is just kind of combine it and put it into a standardized test situation, right? So what you'll find often is depending on what school you're in or what your state's requirements are, right? You have to take some sort of standardized test, or at some point you might have to take the SAT, the ACT, and then put questions like this on there, right? So they know that it's not necessarily about knowing the exact thing, the exact ways to solve these problems, but it's about knowing the basic concepts. So what they'll do is they'll test you on your knowledge of positive, negative lines, on slope, on y-intercepts. So what we end up having is a lot of questions that look pretty similar, and you have to be able to discern between the differences of them. So what we're going to do today on this is we're going to have our, I'm going to give you some tips before we get into the actual graphing, right? So if they give you a graph, right, and they say you have to match the equation, right? So there's a couple. The easiest, most obvious thing I think you can find when you're looking at a graph, right? I would ask myself, positive or negative slope? Right? And you can eliminate the ones that are not positive or negative, right? Or whichever. If you have a positive line, you want to eliminate everything that has a negative slope, right? I think the next easiest thing to check then is the y-intercept. Just because that's easier to see, right? You can just point to a specific point on the graph and you can see it. Then if you still have any answers left, then you want to actually count the slope. But counting the slope can take the longest, so I don't necessarily think that should be the first thing that you do, right? I think it should be like the last if you still have anything left, right? You might get it down to 2 answers by then, and then you're going to actually have to check the slope. So if we were to do this first one that's on here, right? I would go through that checklist. If you want to write that checklist somewhere, that's what we're going to use to solve this. So if you were to go to this, and we have a line that looks like this, and it looks something like that, right? That's our first one. Now, there's a couple ways you could do this, okay? Let's say we have all these answer options. Y equals 1/2 x plus 3, y equals negative 1/2 x plus or minus 3, y equals 2x minus 3, and y equals 1/2 x minus 3. Right? Now if you look at these, all of these kind of look the same, right? They're using the 1/2 or the 2, and then they're going to use that y-intercept of negative 3. Okay? So you want to kind of decide while you're over here, right? The y-intercept of this line is going to be negative 3, right? Y-intercept is negative 3. It's right there. And then to get to the next point, we had to go a rise of 1, a run of 2, right? We went up 1 and over 2. So we have a slope of positive 1/2. We have a slope of positive 1/2. Now, if you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, I could just take this and I could write my own equation, right? I could write my own. Y equals 1/2 x plus negative 3. That works, right? And that's a long way to do it. Now, what I want to think about is the ways we can eliminate bad answers today, right? So I'm going to eliminate bad answers. So if you're looking at this, right, the first thing we want to check is this slope is obviously positive. So you want to go to your answers that you have and eliminate all the slopes that are negative. So in the first one, A, that's positive slope. Second one, negative 1/2, that's a negative slope. So I'm going to eliminate B as an answer. C has a positive slope, and D has a positive slope, okay? The next thing on check is the y-intercept. The y-intercept of this problem was negative 3. So everything should have a minus 3 or a plus negative 3 at the end. A has a plus positive 3. That's not going to work. C is negative minus 3, and D is minus 3. So those might actually still be the answer here, right? Now, the last thing then, if you can't get the answer from those two, is to actually count the slope. And you see how similar these are, right? If you forget that it's rise over run, you might easily put C. But remember, it's going up 1 and over 2. So in this case, the answer should have been D. The answer should have been D, right? It's the only one that matches the whole thing, okay? So, if we go to do the second one here, the second one has a graph that looks like this, right? And they give us the options. Y equals 2x plus 1, y equals negative 2x minus 1, y equals negative 2x plus 1, and y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. You notice you don't have to actually solve anything here, and a lot of the answers are very, very similar to each other, right? So, let's go through our checklist here, right? This line that has a positive or a negative slope. That's going down, so that's a negative slope. So you're going to eliminate all the answers that have a positive slope. So the first one has a positive 2, that's not going to be. Second one, B is negative 2, that's good. Y is negative 2 and negative 1/2. Okay, so that's good. Second thing we're going to check is the y-intercept. So right here we got a y-intercept of positive 1. That's the y-intercept, right? B should be 1. So B should be 1. So I'm going to look and eliminate anything that doesn't have 1. So this B, that one says negative 1. That's not going to work. Plus 1 and plus 1. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Now we have these C and D that look very similar. You have negative 2x and negative 1/2. So you're going to have to actually find the slope here. To get from this point to this point, we had to go down 1, 2. So we went down 2, so that's negative 2, and over 1. So that gives us a slope of negative 2, right? Remember, it's rise over run. So the answer to the second one would have been C, right? Again, I'm just trying to walk you through this thought process of how we're going to do these types of problems. Okay? Now, if we're looking at 3 we're going to talk out. Right? You have y equals negative 6 over 5x plus 2, right? So if you're looking at the graph, right, you have graphs that kind of look, one is going like that, one is going more down, and then one is going up like that, right? You can put these on the graph, but we can do this without having the specifics. We don't even need the coordinate plane for this, right? We have a negative 6 over 5 slope, right? A negative 6 over 5 slope. Let me actually do this. Let me start this over. I'm going to show you how you don't need the numbers to solve all of these problems. Alright, pretend those are just x-axes, right? Those are just x-axes. X and y, that's coordinate plane. The first one, option A looks kind of like that, right? Option B looks more like that, and option C looks like that, right? The red line is the line we're looking at, okay? You can eliminate one of these instantly because of the slope, right? This is a negative slope, that's negative, that's negative. This one over here is positive, so that's not going to be your answer. Second way, and you can find the answer just by doing this. You have a positive 2 y-intercept. That means the y-intercept has to be above the x-axis, right? So it has to be up here. This doesn't connect there, so it's not that. So that one had to be A. See how we can do that without even the numbers, right? If you get the concepts down, you can do it without numbers, and that's pretty cool. All right, let's do the last one. That'll be it. Again, we're just trying to work on our test taking skills here. So we have this one was at 3. And the next point was there. Okay, so if we're looking at this, right, we have y equals 3x minus 3, y equals negative 3x minus 3. You see how similar those are? They're trying to slip you up. So slow down and pay attention. 3 over 2x minus 3, and y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 3. So what you notice is a lot of these are pretty much almost the same, besides small negatives, right? So looking at that line, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say that's a negative slope. So I'm going to eliminate everything with a positive slope. A has a positive slope, so A is out. B, C, D all have negative slopes. Okay, that's fine. And then I'm going to check the y-intercept. The y-intercept here is positive 3. B has negative 3 as the y-intercept, so that's not it. C also has negative 3 as the y-intercept. So the only thing we have left is D. Now let's just check just to make sure it's got a plus 3, and the slope here would be down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2. So that would be negative 3 over 2. So the answer will be D for the last one. D for the last one. Again, just wanted to emphasize test-taking skills today on this lesson. Try the practice problems and check back.